Hey, what's up, everybody? You tuned in to another episode of Strategic Moves. I'm your host, Kenn Dowell. This is a place where we bring art, culture, politics, and business all together, and we do it every Sunday right here on this podcast. But when I'm not shooting this podcast, I am the owner of Strategic Resources Consulting and the founder of the African American Men's Action Network. We call it Amen. We've been doing political campaigns, public and government relations work right here in the state of Ohio for over 25 years. Met some very interesting people along the way, and we want to make your next move a strategic move. So this program gives us an opportunity to do just that. I get to bring on some of the people I've met. We come in, we talk about some of the things we learned over our years of being in business and in life, and hopefully it's something you'll get out of it that'll help you with your business or your personal life. So if that's something you're interested in, if this sounds like a program you might want to continue to listen to, all I need you to do is hit the like button, hit the notification bell as well, so that you would know the next time a program is coming on. So today, without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. But first, before we get going, we got to give it up to the number one podcast producer in the city of Cleveland today. That's none other than DJ True. What's happening, man?
What's going on? What's going on?
Every day is a holiday. Every day is a holiday, man. What's going on in Cleveland this weekend? Anything we need to know what's happening before we get going?
What's going on in Cleveland? Well, I didn't get to that show. I wanted to go to that Joe and Tamia show, but I heard it was pretty good.
Really?
Yeah, it was packed from what I've seen on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't see a clip of Cleveland doing the Tamia line dance, so I'm still trying to catch me a clip to see if they went crazy when she did her song.
Yeah, that was the thing we was waiting to see. That should have happened. Oh, you know what? I do got one though. What about the halftime show? What did you think about Usher?
I think Usher blew that out the water, man. I can't even lie. And that performance kind of renewed that. He did really good. I think he did really good, and I guess he's already ready to go on tour, and I already hear people complaining that his tickets are too high. So
he just did that residence. I mean, why would he go on tour? I mean, he just did a residence. I mean, a residence is like a tour in itself, right? And now you do the Super Bowl. What are you going to tour for? How much more money he got to get?
Well, he dropped. I mean, you're going to take advantage. When you performing on the Super Bowl, you're going to take advantage of every opportunity you can. So I think he dropped the album the Friday before Super Bowl called Coming Home. And then he already had his tour because I guess he got such rave reviews about his residency. And ain't everybody going to Vegas. I mean, you got your people that go to Vegas and they may catch it, but they not going to Vegas just to do that. But if you in Vegas, that's one of the highlights or one of the tour attractions for that time being. So now that he got such rave reviews, now he's coming to a city near you.
How was that? What do you think about that Alicia Keys?
Yeah, Alicia Keys, that dress
Alicia
was so
Keys.
tight. Well, I don't even know if it was a dress, a bodysuit.
That was all bodysuit.
It was all
that was all suit with that body. Let me put it that way. That was a lot of body with a little
she
suit.
Was like Supergirl and all that.
She was in there tight, and all I could think about was that y'all know y'all ain't supposed to have y'all women around Usher. Everybody was like, well,
that's
look at
already
Usher.
a meme. But
yeah, that's already a meme. Like,
grinning and skinning together.
Exactly, man. They say, don't bring your woman around me.
You playing for real.
He played for real. I was like, look at Usher, man. He just don't get enough, do he? But he did it great, man. I thought the stage was immaculate. I love the lights on the stage, everything. He did a great job. Great job.
Because I think on one of his songs, it turned into a clock. So when he did that verse,
that was
7 o'clock on the dot, and then my drop top.
Exactly. Yes, he did that, and it looked beautiful.
That was huge. That
was huge. He just had so many hits. He was just dropping them, and he just had to keep them moving. But I thought he did great. I don't think he was as good as Dr. Dre and Snoop. And I'm going to give it to Snoop and Dre. I think Snoop, Dre, 50, Mary J, they came out there.
Compare apples to oranges.
Yeah.
Snoop, Dre, 50 Cent, Eminem. I mean, you getting a full-fledged.
Yeah. No, I'm just talking show. I'm not talking art. It's just show.
But you know, for Usher to be the headliner with a couple guests coming on songs, I thought he did good.
I thought he did excellent.
That just shows you how many hits he got from over the years.
Yeah, that's true. And that's why I said I thought he did great. Other than that, overall, great program. I thought he did great. Super Bowl didn't end quite the way I thought it was.
Who was you rooting for?
I wasn't rooting for nobody but the Browns. And after that, it was over with. So it didn't matter to me.
Like that commercial they had about the Browns.
Yeah, that's it. All I was
in case the Browns don't make it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's it.
We get your money back.
Yeah, that was all it was. Other than that, after Usher, I looked at it. I said, "Good, Kansas City's not gonna win." And I turned the TV off.
Don't bet against Mahomes.
Bet against Mahomes.
Don't bet against Mahomes.
I looked up and look at this here. I just can't believe this. And was Taylor Swift there?
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, so that's why I was.
Swift got probably I estimate about $100 million in advertisement this year.
Jeez, I was just done with it. All right, man, let's get off of that. We got to get to our guest who came in here to spend some time with us.
Yep.
He is a new minister here in Cleveland, Ohio. He had took over a church here, really historical church here in our city, has a lot of rich history, being a leader in some social justice issues and things around and all kinds of issues along those lines. The pastors of that church has always been community oriented. Dr. Reverend Marvin McMickle was a minister there that all of us here locally and nationally, some of you guys out there who might be listening to our program knows very well. And he was a really good gentleman back in our days of him going. I remember he ran for U.S. Senate, helped him on that and a few other little things he tried to do politically, but his number one place to be, it was always in the pulpit and his lessons that he's taught people for years. So the gentleman we have in our studio today is taking over the helm of that, and he's going to make his own mark here in Cleveland and do his own thing and sets his own boundaries and some new dreams for that church and his dreams for what's going to happen there and just what's going on here in Cleveland. He's a young minister, and we're going to get a chance to talk with him about the church, and we're going to talk about life and everything else that's on our mind. All right. So without further ado, everybody, let's welcome Dr. Reverend Napoleon Harris to our program. Thank you, brother. Thank you for coming in here today.
Thank you for having us. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, man, it's just an honor to have you in the house, man. Thanks for taking the time to come on and talk with us. So, man, tell us, are you a Clevelander? Are you from here? Or?
This is home.
This is home.
I'm a graduate, class 99 of Benedictine High School.
Okay.
So this is home. My dad pastored Second Metropolitan Baptist Church. At the time, it was on 79th and Quincy.
Okay.
So it's really, really home. I got baptized at Union Grove Baptist Church, which is on, depending on, I mean, you can stand on 89th and throw a stone, or you can stand on 93rd, hit a stone right on Quincy. So right around the corner from the two churches that really were instrumental in cultivating my spirituality. And that's where I'm pastoring the church now. So sometimes Sunday morning or just period, I intentionally drive down Quincy, intentionally drive down 79th, just gain a different kind of energy passing those historic institutions that really nurtured and weaned me. So yeah, this is home.
So how was it growing up as a PK here in Cleveland?
You know, I just don't have anything else to compare it to. So I guess it was all right for me. At times it was good. At times it was horrible. It was. You know, you could. I'm a church kid.
You have brothers and sisters?
I do. I have siblings. I had a sister in house that I grew up with. I have other siblings as well that we didn't grow up in the same house, but we're a family. And you know, we were at church all the time. Well, you know, it was okay. You know, it instilled a fondness of church inside of me, and I had great memories of church and being in church as a kid. I was socialized there, weaned there. So I love it. I love it. Absolutely love it.
So did you grow up as involved in the church? Was you part of the young deacons and all of that stuff, the young everything?
Whatever was there, we were in it. You know, that was just the way it was. And we loved it. We traveled different places with the church. I mean, it was great. It kept me grounded. It showed me other aspects of reality.
Okay.
So for instance, we grew up in Warrensville. I'm a Warrensville guy.
Okay.
Warrensville was one reality. But coming to the church on 79th is a different reality. Same city, or same area, same region, but different realities. You know, and it gave me a broader perspective of what life was like for a variety and array of different people. You know what I mean? So I love that. I love that communal aspect of the church. And it wasn't about have or have not, because there's always somebody with more, it's always somebody with less. But we were able to connect on the common ground of Christ and spirituality, and have common experiences. You know, it was beautiful, man. Still beautiful. Yeah.
So what was one of the more difficult states of growing up?
Getting in trouble, man.
Yeah. Right.
No, people have people can have unrealistic expectations for the pastor's family, and leadership in general, right? You know, and I remember, people would. I would get blamed for things I didn't do. Boy, if any brother with dark skin, with glasses, a little chubby man, if he was doing something wrong, it was me. You know, or somebody said, "I saw you was smoking, walking down the street," and I was like, "I don't smoke cigarettes." You know, it wasn't me. You know, yeah, he was. You was on Kinsman. How I get on Kinsman? I don't even drive. You know, but yeah, those kind of things. And then, I remember my dad's old school, man, did not play. I remember getting in trouble. I think I got talking in church, playing around, being the kid on the kid's pew. And we got a little too loud. He was up preaching, and he looked down, he was one that's going to get you right,
Right.
And when you his son, the other kid might can get away a little bit, you know what I'm saying? But like me, it was like, oh, you think it's funny? Going in the corner, stand in the corner. When we get home, tightening you up, I'm like, oh man, right? And everybody knows, So, but man, I fast forward. I'm so appreciative of my upbringing, the church, both my parents, grandparents, the whole village, man. It's a blessing.
So how was it as a teenager in those years of going through high school, college, being able and having that? Was it more of did you have an opportunity to get some learning experiences through that? Or how did being a PK help shape some of those difficult times?
Growing up in the church as we did, and particularly as I did, but it's not even so much the church. It was definitely the church, but it wasn't just church as the building, right? It's the church as the experience, and the experience that comes home with you, right? So I saw modeled in my family, modeled with my mother, my father, my grandparents. I saw modeled that God was real, right? It wasn't performative. It wasn't something that was performed. It was who we were, right? So we were raised that way. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So getting into high school, I was not Jesus Jr. I was not that. I'm appreciative that my parents allowed me to be a whole human being.
Okay.
Because now I'm not at midlife trying to recreate my teenage years or be 20 again, right? No, I had that time.
Okay. Right. That's
you
right.
know what I mean?
Right.
But because of the other end of the spectrum, understanding a devotion, a commitment to God that was organic, that I got to get my way.
Okay.
I didn't have to relate to God the way my folks did. I got to relate to God the way I did. And they gave me that space and that grace. So even in those years, awkward years of trying to find who you were as a teenager, God was always somewhere in that equation. And I learned leadership in the church, organic, authentic, real life leadership, because I was probably 12 teaching the teenage class, and I wanted to teach it because all the cool kids were teenagers and I was a little bit younger. So, I didn't want to teach it. I wanted to be in the class. Right. And the only way that worked, was like, you're teaching. I'm like, teaching. And I'm like, yeah, but you know what? That's a good way. I thought that's a good way in, because they have to listen to me. And you know what? you know what? I think a girl might like that, you know.
Right,
So
exactly,
yeah, so
exactly.
you know, but I learned my father was very serious about that, you know, and I'm thinking like, oh man, I just read the book and I tell everybody to read the book and we'll take time reading the book. And before you know it, Sunday school's over with. My dad's like, that ain't teaching, you know, oh, what's the lesson? I mean, he would drill me on it. How are you going to explain that? What is it about? You know, I had no idea how fortunate that was. I was going, man, this dude, man, golly, you know,
Right.
but he was honing a hermeneutic and homiletic acuity. Those are preacher words for how we understand the Bible.
Okay.
How we read it, how we make meaning of it. And I started getting that at an early age without, you know, any idea that I would be in ministry. You know, that was the cost to be cool.
So you was doing that. And what college did you go to?
Oh, I went to the illustrious Tennessee State University in Nashville, Tennessee. So nice. I went thrice, went 3 times.
Really? So you went back?
Oh, I kept going back. So I went for undergrad. Oh, amazing experience. Amazing experience. Life-changing.
Okay.
And as soon as I graduated, I went right back and got my master's. In the course of getting my master's, I accepted and announced a call into ministry. So my dad instilled in me that the call to preach is the call to prepare. So I'm like, okay, well, I know education. That's all I know. I know education, I know educational leadership. I don't know anything about, you know, seminary ministry. So I wanted to enroll at American Baptist College, and the president of American Baptist College told me absolutely not. He told me wouldn't take me. He said, you belong over at Vanderbilt. You have a master's degree. You can't come back here and get an undergraduate degree. Just go on over there. Like, sir, I that's like jumping right. He's like, boy, if you don't go. I went over there, went to Vanderbilt Divinity School. So grateful for that experience. Got called to a church in Connecticut, moved there on faith. While I was there, I started working back in education, leaned on that degree to kind of support myself. Went to school at, where did I go first? University of Bridgeport to get recertified to teach in the state of Connecticut. Then I started working in special ed. So I went back to school again, Southern Connecticut State University, to pick up the correct documentation and licensure and to be able to do that. Was working bivocational as special ed teacher and pastor. Then the Lord was kind enough to send me back to Nashville, this time as an adult with a family, and pastored there. Incredible church, incredible people in both places. Loved the community in both places. Missed the seafood in Connecticut, but loved the hot chicken in Nashville. So it was balanced out. While there, I was like, you know, I can probably finish what I was going to start, because my plan was to do a doctorate in education. So I jumped back at TSU, and there at TSU, finished and completed my doctorate while the world was going into the apocalypse called COVID.
Right.
So,
wow. So I'm gonna pick up me a doctorate degree while y'all doing all of that.
No, I was already in process when it hit. That was, to be honest, that was one of the most difficult times in my life. It was so much all at the same time. So, you know, leading a congregation, historic congregation at the time, First Baptist Church, South England, incredible congregation, incredible church. But we had never seen anything like COVID. And so leading through that period, you know, what do? Do you know, Uncle Sam is giving out this money. Do we take this? Do we not take that? Do we research this? What do we do? How do we keep people as safe as possible? And yet at the same time, you know, still be engaged and active in ministry. So trying to balance all of that. Then, you know, we were all home. We were all home.
Correct.
2 little children. We were all home.
Right.
And at the same time, I'm writing a dissertation. So I'm applying for funding for this, applying for funding for that, writing a dissertation. I also wrote for the Sunday School Publishing Board. So I got assignments. I'm writing commentary. I'm writing Sunday school series. I'm writing a dissertation. I'm doing classes online. I worked with the STEM program that we had, working and helping with some of the curriculum. And then, COVID hits and we have to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's online. So it's like, how do you do all of those things at the same time? I still don't know. I'm just grateful and thankful that we're on the other side of it now.
You got through it. So I want to go back a little bit.
Sure.
I want to go back when you said that you got called to preach in your second year.
No, I was
after you graduated after you got your bachelor's degree, right?
Well, so the Lord told me, communicated to me about. I don't want to. You know what? I'm going to go back some because I want to. I don't want this to sound like something that is otherworldly, although it's extraordinarily otherworldly. But when we talk about call, we're really talking about purpose.
That's where I wanted to go.
You know what I mean? We're really talking about purpose.
Exactly.
So I remember the first incident of what are you going to do with yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And we were having this workshop. All of my life is church. We were in church having this workshop in the basement at Second Met. And we were talking about spiritual gifts, and it was with the teenagers. And I remember the facilitator told us, you need to ask the question, how are you going to honor God with whatever it is that you do and your gifts and skills and all of that? And he had a section where he asked us to really pray. Mm-hmm. And I did. I was like, you know what? I'm going to really pray and ask God what God wants me to do. And he was so charismatic. He said, the Lord's going to give you a vision of what he wants you to do. And I'm like, okay, I kind of want to know, you're a teenager, you're trying to find yourself. Mm-hmm. And I closed my eyes, I prayed, and a picture of me in the pulpit popped up, and I opened my eyes. I said, nope, try again, God, not that one.
Really?
And then another time I was driving. I remember I was on miles, driving down miles. Mm-hmm. And I knew God was communicating to me that he wanted me to preach. And I just was like, look, I'm not doing that. Come back maybe when I'm 50. When I'm 50, I've lived life. I'll rock with you then. But, no way, buddy. I'm going to college. I'm going to try these girls out. I'm going to have, I had a whole list of things I need to do, right. And I'm like, this is going to cramp my style. Mm-hmm. And that's essentially, for the most part, kind of what I thought, what was happening. Mm-hmm. And then while I was in college, there were moments when God would ask me again, and I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. And it's funny because everybody on earth seemed like knew this but me, right? Mm-hmm. I was more accepting. My mother would tell me that she knew when she was carrying me. Mm-hmm. My grandmother would tell me that I would tell her when I was a child, and I'm like, I don't have any, mm-hmm. Brothers would walk up, oh, my bad, man. Cats wouldn't sell me weed, man. Right. No, Rev, I ain't no Rev, Right. It was like that. And you
always had this thing about you where everybody, even though, like you said, even when you was trying to mingle, they wasn't gonna let you mingle. It was like,
I mingled, I mingled, I mixed, mm-hmm. But it was also clear that like my purpose was different.
That's correct.
You know what I'm saying? Like, mm-hmm. like that purpose was mm-hmm. there. And so accepting the call was really accepting that purpose that God has set for me.
Gotcha.
And it really, in truth, isn't a one-time thing. That's one of the misconceptions. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, well, all right, I'll preach then. Mm-hmm. But God was like, okay, that's good that you said yes to that. But my call is not just to you saying yes to a thing. It's a continual availability to say yes to me. Mm. So it was like, okay, well, all right. So I'm preaching, but what else though? Yeah, you're gonna also pastor, and you're gonna pastor like this. Your disposition is gonna be like this. You're not your dad. You're not anybody else. You're you, and you submitted to me looks like this. And try it today, and then you get up tomorrow. You try it again tomorrow. And that yes takes you. It might take you to court. It might take you to jail. It takes you all the places other people don't really want to go. Mm. But that's purpose. You know what I mean? Or at least my purpose is why I try to write. It's why I try to teach. It's why it's responding, trying to respond wholeheartedly to God's ask and God's demand as I understand it. And the thing is, all of us are called, maybe not to the pulpit, maybe not to preaching, but every last one of us is called to something. We're all called to activism. We're all called to service. We're all called to lives of meaning and purpose. And it's a matter of, will you surrender or not? For me, I didn't find peace until I did. I did all of the wild, cowboy crazy, nothing. I've not met anybody that tells me anything or confides anything that surprises me. I'd be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Like, trust me, I did it, but I didn't have peace. I didn't have peace until I started walking in that purpose, until I said yes, until I decided to center my life around God and what God wanted me to do.
And you say that purpose is anything. It could be anything.
It could be. It could be. It's each of us are different, and because of that, God put all kind of incredible stuff in everybody. And one of the sweetest things in life is operating within that purpose. You know what I mean? Like, you could be a whole Corvette, you could be a whole Bentley, and it sure don't make you a boat.
Right. That's
what I mean?
Right.
And you got a lot of people, God made you, engineered you to be a Bentley, and you out here trying to be a sand dune, an airplane, and bumping your head up against the wall. Can't figure out why it's not shaking for you, because you're not walking in the purpose. You haven't sat down long enough to reckon with God about what you should do and what brings God honor and glory. A lot of people are living for other people, living for the approval of other people, living for influence by what they see in terms of social media, and we still teenagers. You remember, you're a teenager, you everything is because you for the homies or for your friends or for your partners, and it's sick. It's 50 and 60-year-old folks still.
That's right.
The applause, external applause, is what you what you looking for, living for. It's cats with women they can't stand right now. That's your main squeeze. Why? Because you think somebody else thinks she hot stuff, and y'all can't get along. And you would be much happier over here with Sue, Sally Mae, whatever. But you ain't giving her a shot because you think somebody will say she not whatever.
Right.
And vice versa for sisters. So, yeah.
So let's go into then the church then. What do you think your purpose for the church? We getting into the church, and I know you coming new to the church, and we talked about Reverend Mac and some of the stuff he did. What do you see your going into that? You got to be one of the younger pastors that this church done had. Got to be. I done been around a long time. I haven't seen nobody look as young as you in that pulpit running things. So, and one of our bigger churches here. So, what do you think would be you see your purpose over there? What do you see on the social justice side? I'll let you break it down spiritually, and then give me the social justice side as well of that.
Well, those two things. First thing is the misconception that they're two separate things.
Okay.
Because they're the exact same thing. You can't talk spirituality to me unless you're talking about how it plays out in society.
Okay.
And social justice, what we call social justice, is really biblical justice. It's God's right ordering of the world. So that's that. You know what I mean? That's that. So, but let me back up some first. The gift that is Antioch Baptist Church. Wow. Incredible people. And that's an understatement.
Right.
And then the gift that is the Reverend Dr. Marvin McMickle, the marvelous one. The gift he is to, I'm just going to say the gift he is, because you start breaking it into the sections, man, his scholarship, his preaching, his ministry, his everything. And also between Dr. McMickle's time of service was another brilliant young pastor, Reverend Dr. Todd Davison.
Yes.
And he had,
yes,
still has. He's ministering. We swapped. He went home and I came home. Right.
Okay.
He's ministering still with his brand of excellency where he is in Virginia. but he was very passionate about the Lord as well. And so it's exciting to I don't think of it as replacing. I think of it as a relay race. And we each are just running our leg of the race as best we can. And so it's exciting to grab the baton and trying to run with it, and knowing that, you know, sooner than later I got to pass it off too. And I want us to be up when I hand it off.
Right, exactly.
So what does that kind of look like? You know, there's a song we sing, A Charge to Keep I Have, and one of the lines is, to serve this present age, my calling to fulfill. And I think that's what it is. And so we have a playbook. We have the Bible. We're able to rightly divide that is to interpret it. And our goal is to say, as Jesus said when he opened the scroll in Luke, he's like, yo, this day is being fulfilled. And that's what preaching ministry, pastoral ministry is. We should be able to stand up and say, right now it's happening. Right now, not down the line, not by and by, but there's an aspect of this kingdom of God that's breaking into our midst right here, right now, inside of us, around us. That's the model of ministry. Now you can think of the kingdom of God as several ways. Some people will think of it as heaven, but that's slave religion. We'll talk about that later. What we're dealing with is God's way that things should be. So if we profess that God is God, then we have a responsibility to God as maker, as creator, as ruler, as savior, as master, whatever language you want to use there. We have an obligation to respond to God, right? And the kingdom of God is us fulfilling that. I like to think of it as how we would behave if God was right behind us looking over our shoulder, right? How would you treat the poor? How would you treat those who are hungry, those who are naked? How would you behave if God was right there? How would you treat your wife? How would you treat your children? How would you treat Kenn with two wins? You know what I'm saying, Brother Dowell? How would you treat him? You know, how would you treat the people in your employ? How would you govern? How would you lead a city? How would you lead a county? How would you lead a nation? Like that's the kingdom of God. And we've done such a disservice by detaching it from its right now implications and putting it over into heaven and the by and by. And it reminds me of that old adage. Our ancestors would say, yo, when the missionaries got here, we had all the land and they had the Bible. When they left, they had all the land and we had the Bible. And it wasn't a fair trade.
It wasn't a fair trade. So, you know, I want to stay on that point because, you know, you said something there. You talked about heaven and slave talk. So what do you mean by that?
All right. So I'm looking at your picture here with Malcolm, and this almost sound very Malcolm X's, right? You know, but it's really very Jesus-ish, right? So Malcolm would say that you can't expect your enemy is going to teach you anything,
right?
So check this out. Jesus died. You know that. Everybody knows that story.
All right.
What kind of death did he have?
From the Bible, he was crucified.
Crucified. You know who gets crucified?
No.
Enemies of the state.
Okay.
Let that sit in for a moment. Enemies of the state, enemies of the empire.
That's correct.
That's who got crucified. So you could be a bad person and just be jailed or killed or whatever. But to be crucified was a political statement. You went against Rome, and we gonna hang you up so everybody know. Don't you ever
do this.
Ever go against Rome.
Okay.
Right. It's a political death. Above him in multiple languages was the inscription, King of the Jews. Guess what? That's a political term. How can we preach a gospel that has no political impact? Yeah. Who would tell you to do that?
Right.
Who
I say other than your enemies. All right.
Paul,
Mm-hmm.
jailed, political prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
This was a political movement. Kingdom of God is a political term.
Mm-hmm.
Lord of Lords, King of Kings are
Mhm.
political terms. The whole gospel is countercultural. A lot of it is lost because we don't necessarily know the ins and outs of first century or the ancient Near East, right?
Mm-hmm.
So King of Kings, Lord of Lords, those were terms that were used of Caesar.
Mm.
So what you have is this diss record, ancient diss record, to say, you not the way, he is. Yeah. So, but that's all lost. And it's just, you come to church and get your soul saved and go to heaven. Cause that I can keep you doing. I went to Accra, Ghana twice.
Mm-hmm.
It was so meaningful. I went back, brought my wife, and next year, Lord willing, as many of the saints from Antioch and or anywhere else that wants to go will make that pilgrimage too.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got to see the slave dungeon. Both at Elamina, I mean, there are multiple of them, but
Mm-hmm.
we will go to the one at Elamina and we will go to the one at Cape Coast. You have to go see these things. And you have to see how right above the slave dungeon, the men's slave dungeon, in both and in most castles was the church.
Mm.
Now you ask yourself, what kind of religiosity will allow you to steal people? Lock them underneath you. You hear them moaning and crying, chained together in ankle-high rivers of human feces. Huh? What the captain's quarters would be always right by the women's dungeon. And he would have them come out, chained, pick which one he wanted. She would be washed and taken to him to be raped. Then rechained. And anybody that resisted, they also would rape men as well. Anyone that resisted was tortured and or just killed. Now, right here was this church. Because that was a gospel that was empty, that had no social impact of how we should treat each other. It was the religion of empire. See, for empires to succeed, Dominic Crissant talks about domination system. Galtung talks about violence, and violence is like an iceberg. We may see direct violence, but it rests on these other unseen parts that really just become assimilated into the culture. And now we go back to Crissant talks about a domination system or empire. What it needs the corroboration of law, and it needs the corroboration of religion to normalize it. So what you're seeing, take a Billy Graham.
Okay.
Access to presidents. Now, I ain't talking about this redacted Billy Graham that they trying to peddle us now. Billy ain't said nothing on the record to improve race relations in America. He didn't. With all that power and influence, nope. You're making a choice to advance the empire cause. So we call it slave religion because it says nothing to right now. It allows the slave master to, on his way to church, pick out a slave, tie her up, have her husband tied up and beaten so he can rape her, and then go to church, come out of church, and everything is peachy cream and rosy.
Put this wire up over there so that you won't have, just grab it from like the back. There you go.
Okay.
And then all the way up at the top. Yep, over that little thing. There you go.
Okay.
Now we're good. So let me ask you then, the slave religion and that.
I should say slave master religion. Yeah, no, because the slaves had a whole different
religion.
Yeah.
So on the slave master's religion that you talk about, then, because that's one of the things, man. The older I got, I'm struggling with. What do you supposed to believe, man? One thing's for sure. The older I get, you know, and I sit back and I look at a lot of the holidays and some of the stuff that goes through and the stuff we spend a lot of time spending money and worshiping and all of that stuff too, I really believe is a bunch of mumble jumble and bull crap. And I'm kind of right. I'm really right where you at. So it's amazing that you had said all of that. So if it's the masters, slave masters religion, what religion should we be following then?
So I think of it as a radical Christianity. And radical gets a bad rap, but you look at it etymologically, radix, it means back to the root. So at the root of Christianity, right? We could surmise it like this. In fact, Jesus gives us a great example. He says, love the Lord with all your heart. That's the first and the greatest. And the second one is just like it, meaning it's just as important. Love your neighbor as yourself. The rest of this is trying to teach us how to do those, how to honor God and how to love our neighbor. See, we all God's children, right? And I remember before I met my wife, being out in the dating game, and I dating this sister. She had a kid, wasn't my kid, you know. And I thought I kind of liked her, but I wasn't feeling her kid. And you know that relationship obviously didn't work because it's like you can't think you love me and don't have no love for my what?
My kid, right?
Yeah. So then the same thing with God. How are we gonna say that we love God and we don't love God's what? Kids. So when you talk about what to believe, or what's at the heart, rather, what's at the heart of what I believe? I can't tell you what to believe. I can tell you what I believe. You can watch me, and if it looks like something to bank on, that's what you do. That's real witnessing, right? So then at the heart of my faith, the heart of Christianity is loving God, but also loving God's people. And there are ways that we do that. And the Bible reminds us that it's not just loving the people maybe that live in my zip code or on my street or in my little cul-de-sac or whatever, but also learning how to love the people who are poor, the people who others may write off as poor. And we've had years, decades, centuries even of misrepresentation of that. And not even so much centuries of it necessarily, but modern thought has been shaped by very imperialized thinking, right? So again, I'm preaching through the Sermon on the Mount, the first part of the Beatitudes, and this is the most. You know what? You don't need to hear that. I got a perfect example for you. Super Bowl commercial.
Okay,
that was beautiful. Jesus commercials they had on there were really nice, really beautiful. You got Jesus washing feet, different people washing. Oh, it was very spiritual. What's the Super Bowl ad run? What they hit for?
About $3-4 million. No, matter of fact, $6 million.
Okay, $6 million, right? I think I got called away from the TV, but I know I think I saw like 2 of them. Okay, so you mean $6 million to do something for Jesus that honors him. The Jesus in the book would have rather, instead of being on Front Street in performative Christianity, the Jesus that we read about in the Bible would have rather you taken that $6 million and fed, clothed, visited. That was his mission statement.
So on that point, is it safe to say that times have changed and maybe the new Jesus need more people knowing that he exists?
Yeah. You know what? There's that quote that says, it's not that Christianity has been tried and found wanting. It's that, there's been nobody to really try it. Right. You know? And again, it goes back historically. You think about when it was, the original organic that it was. And then it went above ground, right? It went above ground. And there was a lot of good that came from that. And then it became embraced as an acceptable religion by the Roman Empire. And then at one point it became an official religion or the official religion of the Roman Empire. And one of the sad things about that is it was co-opted, right? It was co-opted, and historically there was this was not something that was just welcomed with open arms. People contested, there were challenges, there were issues to it, and that's one of the wonderful things, I think, sitting down and talking with folks and hearing these stories of how Christianity came to be, and getting back again to the root, to what was Jesus really about? What was Jesus really on? What was Jesus really doing? Because right now, people, and especially in the church, people say stuff like, I preach Jesus. What that mean? You got people in love with an idea of Jesus, but correct. Not even Jesus, with no idea of who Jesus is, what Jesus's ideas were, or what Jesus said. There was a pastor who preached the Sermon on the Mount, which is Jesus's greatest hits. And his church was like, where you get this from? It's like, this is what it is to be a Christian. In fact, there were evangelicals who were polled, and they were upset that Jesus would say, turn the other cheek, said, well, they need to take that out of the Bible. Right. So how are you guys Bible thumpers over here, but don't want to do any of the stuff
over there?
Yeah. And so it gets back to, one, cultivating a relationship with God. And at the center of that, loving God, responding to God by loving everyone, understanding that they're a person too who God made. And that's what's missing in our world.
So you're a scholar of.
I don't know about that.
Pretty much, you work over there with Mac Mickle, and you done got a few degrees on it. So what is the oldest religion?
I don't know. Oldest religion is probably something indigenous to where probably, I think, sub-Saharan Africa is where we agree that people came from. So whatever is indigenous to there. This is gonna sound wild coming from a Christian pastor, but I don't think so. One of the things, there's a move to decolonize, and part of that is at least embracing, or I would say maybe not even so much embracing, because that you need to do what you have to do for yourself, but certainly de-demonizing indigenous belief systems, right? And there's biblical precedence for that. When Paul is on Mars Hill, he notices that they have temples to a variety of gods, and he sees one as this unnamed God, and he uses that as an object lesson to kind of present his beliefs. I always find that passage wonderful because it shows a Christian response to a pluralistic society. And it doesn't have to be imperialistic, meaning do it my way. Mine is the best. You can relate to where people are. I can respect as a believer. I know who God is to me, right? And I can respect who God might be to you. And without trying to put me at the center. And my experience of God at the center, because that's to severely limit God. That's to say that God only does this and God only relates this way. That's crazy. That's crazy. That ain't God. If God is that predictable that God can go into my small algorithm, that's a very, very small God, right?
Right. It's a small God. Follow your algorithm. You say that's a very
real small,
right?
Minute,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
So do you think that today, with the way the church is going, and we know that talking to other pastors and there's been a decline in the amount of people that goes to church and that going and in the belief system, is that because you believe the church is not rooted in the community?
I think there's probably no one definitive reason. Overall, I don't think it's fair to say that churches aren't rooted in the community, because churches still have very deep roots to the community, very deep ties to the community, and are still very active in the community, by and large, most churches. And so there's that. But I think what we're looking at is an overall decay in the moral fabric of our community.
Well, that's the part I'm talking about.
You know what I mean?
And the reason why I say that part I'm talking about is that part right there. And we can get down to the get down. that part right there has been my issue with churches here in Cleveland. I believe that at some point or another, the church has gotten political, but not and got rid of its activism hat. And what I mean by that, politically, they line up for the political stuff. And I've been a part of the political stuff for a long time. And so I can be telling on myself even with it, but I will say that, yes, they line up politically, but I think the decay of the moral fiber of our community is the lack of the people who have that moral compass standing up for the people in the community, which makes the people in the community feels as if no one is standing up for them. And that's why we got what we got.
Man, who could argue with that? I think I think there's certainly some aspects and elements of that are true. And you've been here putting in work for almost 30 years. So, you know, you've been here front line and center. I don't know, man. I'm going to say, I go back and I think I listen to some of the great stories from some of the older guard that has transitioned or is transitioning. I think about giants like Dr. Cavanis, who's still with us, Dr. Moss, who's still with us, and I had the privilege to sit with some of these giants. I don't want to be in a name calling thing, but you know, they would share things that blew my mind. And in fact, oh man, I can't. Clay Evans, a buddy of mine, wrote his autobiography, and the city of Chicago came down so heavy on him, and man, you know, they just hijacked this whole church movement and really just wouldn't let him build a building, right? Because he supported King. Now, most of the pastors did not. There was a whole, you know, and I don't have to go to Chicago. That happened in Cleveland too.
Right. No,
it literally happened in Cleveland. They were like, don't have him up here.
Don't have him up here. Right. I heard those stories too. Yeah.
So I think sometimes we think that the church has always been, or that is monolithic.
Right.
And it just isn't. There have been many of us who have subscribed to what I described as the slave master's religion. And I don't want to belittle it, because if it's helping you, right? If it's helping you, I'm not gonna call it evil or wrong. And there are aspects of maybe what is presented as traditional Christianity that have helped folk make meaning of life and have helped our ancestors hang in there during such horrible times. The hope of heaven. I just did a funeral yesterday. Lord, we all are hoping for the resurrection. But the thread of faith that I adhere to says that I don't have to just die to experience that resurrection. Paul says, he says he's hoping for he's expecting the resurrection, right? You know, I want to know him and the power of the resurrection. This is experience. I want this experiential knowledge of Christ. He's already told the saints he in Christ. So he's already experiencing this. And the power of the resurrection. His expectation was that God would continually pick him up. As the more life would knock him down, Christ would raise him up. Right? So this is our faith. It's just that it's not always presented that way. And so if I'm thinking that it's only one general grand resurrection, I'm not finna risk my life. You know what I mean? I'm not. What do you think kept King when his house is being bombed and in the midst of the threats and the letters? What made Evans? It was their faith, their spirituality. So it's there. But we haven't always been monolithic. So to your point, and the moral decay is, it's new. It's still new to our community. It's new to us. We have managed to hold on to that bit of our Afrocentricity throughout slavery, throughout Jim Crow. We kept that aspect of how God made us intact. But we have literally, in some ways, assimilated into a burning house, not necessarily as we suppose, but a burning house of moral decay, right? And you think like what we accept as entertainment or as keeping it real is just is ridiculous. And I just, it's personal for me. I grew up in this. I remember the time when folks like Dr. Calvin Butts and C. Dolores Tucker were taking a stand against what was then called gangster rap, and Snoop and Pac, and and I remember being mad. How dare they, man? Man, Snoop just real. Pac just keeping it real. We didn't know we were signing up to be being brainwashed, and that decency was being flushed down the toilet.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, because I was that generation. I was playing that stuff. I remember NWA first album came out, Dope Man. Yeah. And I was, maybe last year, out in the backyard, getting ready to barbecue and everything. I'm having one of my man moments we were talking about. I'm about to put on what I want to play today. Sir. I'm about to put on me some old NWA. Man, I put on Dope Man.
Like, what was I listening to?
I had to turn it off myself. I was like, oh, and my kids are grown, man. But I was just like, I don't even want my daughters even listening to this, man. I mean, and I was like, I remember literally rolling down the street, bumping it, that, man, bumping it.
Listen, I was a little bit, I was a little younger, man. But I mean, I again, that's why I don't judge. I can't pass judgment on the young folks for what they're listening to now, because I was listening to an album called Ghetto Dope.
right. I'm telling you, this one was called In the Mix, and I'm in the mix of the crack epidemic. We bumping a song called Dope Man. Yeah. That's what we was bumping, man. Yeah. And you're right. So it started a long time ago.
It started, and it's just, we're looking at the natural consequences of that erosion to our morality and spirituality, to the point, like, you look at like what is trafficked as reality TV just isn't real. There's no world in which you can have a disagreement with somebody. Young ladies can have a disagreement and throw a drink on someone and then go and take a trip the next day. Like, that's not real, but it's being presented, right? You know what I mean? As real, right. And it's not. And we've lost that connection with the Creator. You know what I mean? That connection that also made me be connected to my sister and my brother as well, right? Because you can't have this connection and not that connection. They go together. We've lost that, and we've lost that sense of morality. Success is not measured by how much money you make or get. So what? You got the bag, and right? But that part of that morality has been rescinded. You know what I mean? And it's that's new for us. We had the sense of community. Drugs help do that. A lot of it. But it's not just drugs. I mean, it's been so many things. It's not just the church hasn't been. It's not just that. It's so much more than that. People will jump on the church, and I'm not gonna call myself a church defender. I mean, but church belong to God, and God big enough to handle God's own business. But I do remind folks, typically, the kids who are in church aren't the ones who are doing the other things. Typically, are there exceptions? Yes, but more than likely, that kid that's going to church, you're not clutching your pocketbook when they walk past. So I think as a community, we have to go back to a sense of morality that involves centering our lives around God and understanding the commitment to each other.
So what can the church do more in our communities, you think, to take a lead in that?
Well, we have service every Sunday.
Church.
At some point, I think we have to get to a space of some collective ownership for each other and for ourselves. There's more available to. I don't want to. Well, I'm gonna stay with this question, but it's broader. It's looming. I mean, churches do have. We do have our part to play. We have to keep it real, speak to issues that are where people are, and we got to reclaim Jesus, right? About last year MLK service, I talked about reclaiming King. We need to reclaim the King of Kings. We need to reclaim Jesus, that the Jesus that people were willing to lay down their life to follow. We need to reclaim that Jesus, the one who tells us to love our enemies. It's hard, but that's the Jesus we need. That Jesus is always in style. That Jesus is always trending. That Jesus is super dope, but we kind of stashed him. You know what I'm saying? And churches, you know what? James Cone said this. I agree. We have to decide. When Jesus was on the cross, one of the things says, man, why don't you save yourself? He saved others. That was one of the jeers. He saved others. Let him save himself. And of course, he didn't save himself, because in the course of saving others, he could not save himself. I think that's where churches are. We have to decide whether we want to save the community or whether we want to save ourselves.
Can't do both.
You can't do both. You can't do both. We need new metrics to measure what success looks like. In the past, is how many people come, how much money you raise, how nice is your building facilities, bodies, benches, budgets. Those 3 P's. And that's how we measure success. That's good for Walmart.
Right.
It's not good for God's house. How do we measure our success? Impacted lives. Did Mr. Taylor go home and be a better husband? Did Mrs. Taylor go home and be a better wife? Can they accept a child who is same-sex loving, or is they can't get with their child because of something they heard you say? Can you? Those are the metrics for ministry. You know what I mean? Those are the metrics for church. Can people come in there and learn soft skills and hard skills? Can the poor who have no place to go, can they come in there and warm themselves during the day? Like those are the ways that we broadcast and show the love of Christ.
So do you think the community is asking too much of the church?
No, we're the church. We the church.
Okay.
We the church, man. So again, we believe we have the Holy Spirit, which is God's self living inside of us. God is incarnate inside of us, allowing us to do the things that please God. Well, that's an awful lot of power.
Right.
But we've reduced it, or we haven't even tapped into it, because we think the Holy Spirit is just what makes me have a shout and hoop or sing. And, oh, you're so anointed. You got a great voice. So the Holy Spirit is all over you. Nah. You don't know when the Holy Spirit is all over me? Holy Spirit is all over me when I would rather do something bad and I choose different.
Right.
That's what the Holy Spirit is all over me. When I have a meeting with an elected official and I have to say something that I know they don't want to hear. That's what the power of God is for that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? That's what the power of God is for. So I think we have that. We have not done the best job collectively tapping into that to actualize our faith and what we believe, and to be frank, what Jesus is counting on us to do. We arms and legs.
Well, I think part of that also is age-wise. I think that we're at a point where new ministers like yourself and younger pastors are now coming in to be able to kind of change it up a little bit. I think that's while some of the pastors in our communities are lone pastors, been there a long time, and they done been through several different changes. And I think for this new age of what this world is turning to, because everything's changing, that it's going to take a different type of ministry. That's all. And even to the speaking truth to power. And I say that even when you say the master's religion, type stuff, which is a different way of explaining that, which is very interesting to me. And we'll definitely have more to talk about that. I thought that was very interesting. I think it's what's new about religion that everybody is kind of looking at these days. So I think that's going to be a big part. And I think that, again, you and some of the other pastors and the younger pastors setting an example of what can be new, I think is where we're at. Things change even when we talk about the Super Bowl. Almost every commercial, if not every other commercial, either had AI in it, or had some robot in it, or had some alien in it. Right? Every one of the commercials. And if you notice, everything changes, and it goes from that. It was like when the country was going through the thing of everyone to accept gays and gayism and all of that. All the commercials and everything sort of were gearing towards that way. And now, as you see, and I'm not picking on anyone, but it's just how we tune ourselves to things. Every commercial now is like mixed couple always, and either they may just be all out gay. That's just the way it is. And it was a time, you'll never see that till, like you say, it tuned us to getting that. And I think that's where we're at now, to your point, that things are just really changing, and it's going to take some new thinking, new way of getting to be able to sit down and interpret it to people in order. So I'm very excited to see what you got, you're going to do over there, because I think that's interesting, and we're going to always be able to talk. I got some questions for you, then we'll let you roll out of here, man. If there was something you wish you could be better at, what you think it would be? If you wish there was something you wish you were better at.
It's a lot of things, but right now I'm gonna say at the top of my list is basketball.
Really?
I've been trying to exercise, and I play ball a couple days out the week with some fellas over at the Warrensville Y.
Okay.
And I've never been good at basketball, and now you hitting midlife, and I'm extremely horrible at basketball. So that's probably at the top of the list. I would love to be better at basketball, just so I can have one of those days where I can talk trash, man. And
you just want to go out there and hit it up and talk smack and walk off the court, huh?
Yeah, I do. But it's fun. I'm thankful for those fellas, for the fellowship, the fun we have, but also, all of us are taking control of our lives and trying to be healthy and encouraging each other to health, and having a little bit of fun doing it. You know what I mean? Some really, really great brothers out there. And, for all our folks, fitness, choose your struggle. It is a struggle to be healthy, but it's a bigger struggle to not be healthy. So fellas, go see that doctor.
Oh, no doubt.
Sisters, go see that doctor. You don't got to put hot sauce on everything. You ain't got to fry everything all the time. But, now my wife is going to remind me of that, because I told her in my house, we don't eat chicken anyway but fried.
No.
I'm kidding. I don't have pool like that in my house, man.
Oh, I was about to say, wow, that was a good one.
I don't have pool like that in my house. But no, but seriously, health is wealth. And I know you guys asking me questions, but I couldn't help but say that. And it's not just your physical health, but your emotional, mental health is a part of it too. And your spiritual health is a part of it too. And so, we have to be mindful of all of those things. And I don't apologize, man. You brought a preacher on here, man. That's what I do.
Good.
Preachers preach.
You good. What's the best compliment you ever got?
Ever?
Best compliment you think you ever got?
Maybe two. My wife said, no, it's a few. So my wife said yes when I asked her to marry her. And I asked her again if she regretted it, and she said no. So those are probably some of the best compliments.
Okay.
My children run up to me and hug me and call me daddy.
How old are your kids?
10 and 8.
Yeah, they still doing that?
They still do it, man.
That's great.
I love it.
I think my kids did that till they were about, they were around 10 or 8. I remember that 11, 12, they stopped. Every day I used to walk in the door, they said, "Daddy," run to the door. Then when they got a little older, man, they stopped
Oh man.
Wait, and you let me know when they stop. You're like, can they stop? It
Oh,
happens to us
you'll know
all.
I'm gonna be
It
dark.
happens
It'll
to
be
all.
dark for me, man. I'll be wearing black, all black.
It happened to all of them, especially the girls, because you look forward to it, and then they just stop. One day, you just come home and nobody
greets you, you know, and that would kill me, man. You know, them not coming and like getting in my arms or.
Oh, that's gonna happen, bro.
Yeah,
it happened to all us dads.
Man.
I just hate to tell you, if that's what it is, your day is coming.
I know it, but I'm gonna hold on as long as I can.
Please do.
And the other best compliment I think when Dr. McMichael visits and says good sermon, when my father says good sermon, and then you know, someone once told me that when I preach, they want to go and read the Bible for themselves, and that made me feel good because that's like, you know, it makes you want to. Well, so yeah, those you know. My mother and my grandmother told me that they're proud of the man that I am. Like, you know, those are the things to me that I hang my hat on. My family, yeah, those are my best compliments.
What's your guilty pleasure?
No comment. No, you know what's crazy? I'm gonna tell you something. I don't have one in the way that you would. Suppose. Now, I'm not Jesus Jr., but integrity to me, there are a lot of definitions for integrity, but integrity for me is the distance between you as you is and you as you ought to be.
Okay.
And that's one definition of it. But then another definition that I subscribe to is if it's something that's like slimy that I know I shouldn't be doing and I can't tell you about it, then guess what? I ain't gonna do it.
Right.
So I can stand like was T.I. So I can stand on business.
Stand on business. So sweet's not a guilty pleasure. Nothing that you just
not as much anymore because I just did a gastric bypass surgery. Again, health as well. Man, I
did the same thing, man. But the sugar is what I started craving more.
I can't do sugar like that. It hurts me.
Really?
Yeah, it hurts. I do have cravings for it, but it's
you
like
fight them.
In moderation. I got some cherry sours. I bought it at the store today, and I know I can only have like 4 of them. You know what I'm saying? And then I'll get another handful, and you know.
I same way, man. I got hooked on Twizzlers, and then from there, man, it opened the doors wide. So, them cherries, watch out for them boys. I'm telling you, they a gateway.
I know.
The little gateways, man, because them boys packed with a little sugar in there.
A lot of sugar. I'll be down. I'll be hurting.
Oh yeah, them boys, they ain't no joke. How about this? If you could trade places with a person for one day, who would it be?
I don't think anybody. I mean, I don't think I want to be. I'm just still trying to unpack all of me. That's me. I might like someone else's lot. You know, like I had a partner got an amazing house. I could definitely live in his house for a day or two, but I don't want to be him. You know,
right.
I don't want to be him. I don't want to be. I'm comfortable in my own skin.
That's a good answer. There's a lot of people gives that answer, so it's not. I had one person who said they wanted to be Jesus Christ. I was like, really? They said, yeah, man. I just really want to know. I said, really? He said, man, I just really want to know. I was like, that's interesting.
But this is the wild thing is that's the expectation. You're supposed to be him.
Wow, that's
we've been settling for trying to be like him when he expecting us to be like you have I don't know if he got the camera on that, but we're talking about that belt, and we're supposed to be authentic replicas like that, like you know they belts or jerseys, they have different levels of authenticity to them. And you pay a little more, you get the actual jersey that the players wear on the field.
Correct.
That's what we're supposed to be.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what we're supposed to be.
What's the worst piece of advice you ever got?
I don't know. Don't go to school. So it told me, don't go to school. And the second worst advice was akin to it. Don't go to school, but don't learn anything there. And then the third piece was basically other folks telling me to be like someone else. So.
Gee, I mean, don't go to school. Then if you do go, don't learn nothing. I mean, that is some bad
advice. I got a lot of that advice.
Like, who the hell will tell you even don't go to school? Well, if you don't go, don't learn nothing.
I got a lot. You'd be surprised when I went to divinity school at Vanderbilt. That was what but that was the majority. So many of the pastors that I knew pulled me aside, man. You know, the fear was that they're going to take your Jesus over there. That was the fear. So it was telling them from a place of love.
Okay.
So I didn't think of it as, it wasn't in the average. So they weren't being menacing or weird. They were like, brother, listen, man, you know.
Don't. They was like, don't. I guess don't fall for all of it. They were telling
you know, and it was bad advice in that I was guarded, as opposed to like really. I still missed out on some things. I had to learn it later or a harder way, as opposed to coming and just being open and cultivate. Because that's what education is supposed to do, cultivating my own constructive theology and understanding of things, you know. And so I'm glad that I didn't heed that advice in full, you know.
DJ, you got a question before we let the pastor leave?
Yes, I do.
He always say that before he leave. I had a question. I'd be like, why you ain't say something? All right, what you got, man?
All right, Pastor, how was you received coming, you know, behind or being the next pastor after Dr. McMichaels, by the congregation, being that you were so much younger than him? Was there any pushback? Was there any people going back and forth to put maybe somebody more like him? Or what was that whole process like, you coming into the historic Antioch Baptist Church?
Yeah, no. So there was a pastor who served there for like a decade. Between Dr. McMichael and I. So the congregation, and he and I are the same age. So he was even younger when he came, right? So the congregation was used to a younger pastor leading. And so it's not like the rift that you know you would think. But during the interim period, Dr. McMichael returned and was there in the interim basis. And first off, I mean, there's just nobody that's Dr. McMichael. Nobody preaches like him. I mean, you know, like no one teaches like him. Nobody is him. And the church gives me a lot of grace in that regard, because who could preach like him? Who can teach like him? I do strive to love. And that's one of the things that I think we definitely connected and vibed on. Because really, the secret is, the secret sauce, I tell you, the secret sauce is love. Because preaching is an act of love. If you love people, you'll be a good communicator of the gospel. If you love people, you're going to find people love is like the center of all of it, right? You know what I mean? Looking at the Bible through the lens of love, and love of God, love of all people, and love for the people that you pastor, that you minister, that you're talking to, it makes you see everything so different. You don't watch TV the same way. You don't watch commercials the same way. You don't think of the Bible the same way. It's like, yeah, that's the common denominator. So that's one thing I think that we have in common. So yeah. Thank you for that question, DJ. That was a good one. But man, it's Antioch's a great church. Love. I go to work on my day off at the church because I love being around the saints so much, and we have a great time. So some wisdom, some humor. We chuckle, we laugh, we cry together. That's our motto. Our motto is we do life together. That's kind of our unofficial motto. We literally are doing life together. So highs, lows, worst times, we're there together. you know. So thank you for that question.
You're welcome.
Well, Pastor, I want to thank you for coming on our program, man. I was bringing you on so as to talk about some other stuff, but the theology stuff you took us through was very interesting, and I think you enlightened a lot of people, and I look forward to airing this program so that people can get an opportunity to listen to it and get a different viewpoint about certain things. So I'm really looking forward to that. But like what we do with most of our programs, we end it by allowing you to take that camera right there. You get to look in there just like Hot Wings. You ever watch Hot Wings? Hot Wings. At the end of Hot Wings, you get a chance to talk into the camera, say whatever you want to say. If you want to let people know anything that's coming up that you want them to be aware of, or if you just got some closing words that's on your heart, you want people to take your time and say that to the camera right here. We're going to put in the description all the links and everything to how you can find out about what in their services are over at Antioch and how you can get in touch with the church and check out what Dr. Napoleon Harris is doing over there at that church. And we're going to keep up with him. We're going to have him back on some panel discussions on some other topics as we go. So right now, Pastor, camera's yours.
Oh, hey everybody. No. Closing words. Let's get back to love. Let's get back to loving God. Let's get back to loving ourselves. Let's get back to loving each other. I think we'll be all right if we do those things. Love God, because that's God's love for us is the center, the epicenter of everything. It's how we even know what love is, right? And then love yourself. Love yourself. Love yourself. All parts, all aspects. Love what looks back in the mirror at you. And love your folk, love your people, love everybody that you encounter, and live as if God was right behind you. and how you would treat people if God was right behind you, that's what you should do. How you would treat yourself, that's what you should do. And let that be your guiding light. And come hang out with us on Sundays at Antioch Baptist Church. And check us out on the website, antiochcleveland.org, and click the link on Wednesdays for Bible study. Hang out with us. Bible studies Wednesday at 6:30. We start with prayer. The teaching starts around 7 o'clock. Or Friday mornings at 10. We go from 10 to 11. Sometimes we hang out till 11:30. But check us out and commit yourself to a greater purpose, a greater cause. Let it be God. Let it be your community. Peace and blessings.
Excellent. That is Dr. Reverend Napoleon Harris. And we'll see you next week. Peace.